Hey folks, it's Maxwell here and welcome to another TW9 video. We're with AEW and we're for the Sickos. Now tonight could be one of the lengthier episodes. So the plan here is, we have Dynamite, we obviously have Okada versus Lance Archer for the Continental Championship. But in between videos, obviously I'll progress into November. That'll give me a better idea of how much we run financially at, if it's at a loss, if it's at a big loss, or if it's profit, because that will allow me to go, right, we can make X investment or Y investment, or we have to be a bit more patient. And then, because it's the end of the month, what I want to try and do is every month is basically, we'll put like certain wrestlers in the spotlight, and we'll see what kind of skills have developed, whether that be their popularity, and whether that be anything from psychology to, especially with the younger wrestlers, and I suppose with some of the veterans we can look at the decline as well. But a real interest in just the development of some. I can't do them all because we'll be here all day, but maybe we can have like a spotlight on a few and go from there. So I won't bother on too much. We'll go through this episode of Dynamite. I'm quite happy with it. Another thing as well with my booking, it might confuse a few people. Sometimes it's been confusing me, but I seem to have stories within stories, or a story that looks like it's not happening, but it's really the part of a bigger story because there's a smaller story in it, if that makes sense. For example, like basically the story we're going to tell with Will Ospreay and Ricochet, where they're against each other, they're distance away, but they're still feuding, but they're still together, and then it hopefully makes sense at one point. Hopefully tonight's episode will maybe clear a bit of air why we're doing this. Let's just do the episode because I keep getting around in circles. Let's do it. So we start off Dynamite from the Adler Theatre. I think we're in Idaho, I think, hopefully. So I went straight away with the wild brawl match of the evening. It is going to be between Mark Briscoe and Samoa Joe. Joe is obviously portraying a heel, but he will be obviously turning face of the feud that he's really in. But it's again to get him some momentum here, and it's good to see that the wild brawl brought the best out of them, and he defeats Mark Briscoe in 8:41 by submission, Kikuna clutch. Guys had good chemistry together, Joe benefiting from being an amazing forum, a 62 for the wrestling, and a 64 for the segment. So it probably could have like co-main evented, but it's here because it had a purpose. Because he then has words from John Moxley, who has basically stood out in the arena. He's not made it to the ring, just saying, he knows Joe's a very, very dangerous man, but so is John Moxley. But John's going to be patient, he's going to be methodical, and at full gear, he is going to make Samoa Joe tap out. So 66. Are we going to go with a submission match? Possibly. Could just be him, using Frenton words against Samoa Joe, but it continues the Bryan's final run storyline, and it lost a little bit of heat because there's like 90 million people in that storyline, all crossing paths. I then had a little angle backstage, and this is where MVP says, right, Ricochet, I want a decision. Ricochet says, you know what, I thought about it, took the business card, but respectfully, I'm going to pass on this. It's time for me to just start doing what I do best, stay on the show, being on another level, basically. So Ricochet walks away, MVP just nods and goes, okay, it's time for chapter 1. And then we head to the next segment as a 57 for that one. We had the much anticipated tag match as Athena and Mercedes Moné finally square up against each other, but it's of course with their partners in this case, Billy Starkz and Camille. So obviously I wanted to build them up before we go as Athena versus Mercedes, and I feel like if it just makes Athena look like as much a threat as possible, then great. So this one was storytelling, because a lot of good matches on the show, and I felt like this one we might need to cover Billy's performance. But it was decent anyway. Billy Starkz and Athena defeat the Mone Corporation, Camille and Mercedes Moné, in 10:41 when Athena pinned Camille with the top rope stunner. 54 for the rest on a 57 for the segment overall. You can see there in terms of in-ring performance, Athena and Mercedes Moné with a 62. So I'm really hoping when those two tangle, it'll be a good match. But yeah, it just shows you they've got the upper hand on Mercedes. Is she going to panic over the next few weeks? I then had a decent reaction from the crowd, but subpar wrestling. I had Darby Allin defeat the Butcher in 8:51 with the coffin drop. This one sadly only scored a 53. I thought it'd be a good big man versus underdog story, but unfortunately they didn't click, and it made for a little bit of an awkward bout. Again, Darby getting 3 Steve. I make him do a lot of matches despite his injury, but it's the fearlessness of Darby Allin. Anyway, a few words from Darby in this promo on Hangman. Obviously, Hangman blames Darby from not getting the World Championship by losing in that #1 contenders match. And Darby says, you know, they've not collided too many times or crossed paths too many times in the history of AEW. But, you know, Hangman's been a very, very dangerous man and hurting a lot of people. But Darby Allin gets hurt, gets straight back up. He doesn't feel pain. And he says, Hangman, you want to do it? I'll do it anytime, any place. And that was a 50 rated promo. Again, lost some heat on the Bryan's final run storyline. Too many people, not over enough. Next up with that decent matchup, Okada and Lance Archer for the Continental Championship. Okada wins in 12:29 with the Rainmaker, giving him his 7th defence of the Continental Championship. So a 73 for Okada, 50 for Lance Archer. They had good chemistry and that lifted the match. And overall the segment was a 65. I feel the Continental Championship and International Championship are so difficult to book because I feel they're so similar in terms of what AEW wants them to be, and you know it's pretty much main eventers that are holding them. It's like who do you drop the title to and where do you put it in the pedestal next to the TNT? They can't all be prestigious. Something has to drop. So at the moment anyway, as I say, Okada will win that. He probably have a few more defences. We'll see if we keep the title on him at Full Gear, because as soon as that's done, he might be a Continental Classic. He might need to either retain his championship by winning that or facing whoever wins it. Remains to be seen. I'm intrigued how AEW actually go about it in real life. Next up, we had a few words here. Oh, that's a good segment actually. Renee, I think I'm going to use you more often for this. So I took an interview segment here. It was just Renee Paquette talking to Daniel Garcia, just basically asking him what his aims are in AEW. He says he's delighted to be TNT champion, and he says he's going to keep defending it. He's going to have an open challenge for Collision, and he's going to put that belt on the line. Hopefully another good title defence. It was a match I was going to put tonight, but kind of realised I didn't have time, so it's been moved to Collision. So Daniel Garcia will defend that, and that was a solid 60 segment. Although we do need something to hit the 70s, or we may be struggling for a pop gain. Next up, decent matchup. Ricochet defeats Jay Lethal in 7:44 with a 6:30 splash, so maybe he doesn't need MVP's managerial services. But the match itself, 64, 45 from the crowd, and a 68 for the segment. So these two mesh pretty okay. I'm happy with that. A good win for Ricochet. However, that is the end of the good times, as returning from injury, aligning himself with MVP, Chapter 1 as Attack Ricochet, and Powerhouse Hobbs basically annihilates Ricochet. He folds him in half with that spine buster, and there is going to be a Hurt Syndicate. And there's your first member to join MVP, Powerhouse Hobbs. So 47, and a disappointing end to the night for Ricochet. We then have a little character development segment with Mariah May, which was a 67, so that's encouraging. Just saying she's going to have a big celebration of still being champion on Collision. As I say, she's looking forward to Full Gear and a potential title defence. One of the contenders looks like it is going to be Mina Shirakawa. I wonder if anyone else will step up and interrupt that celebration on Collision without making that more obvious. This one's a wee promo from Don Callis with Konosuke Takeshita. I've been using him as a background player to get around the basic inability to speak English. But he says it's terrible what happened earlier on at Ricochet. Poor kid, obviously. He knows Will Ospreay pretty well, and obviously he's gutted that Will Ospreay's not there, so couldn't save Ricochet. That's how I'm covering for that. But Takeshita tonight is in a triple threat match. Brian Cage, Sammy Guevara. The winner will face Will Ospreay at Full Gear for the International Championship. It's a total Tony Khan move, this, just a random triple threat match to get a contender. And you know what? I'm going for it. I'm going to do it as well. Because then it can only have banger matches and storylines outside of that. They can still go. So 50 for that one there. I mean, since he had the promo, it was obvious who was going to win. Anyway, the bout had good wrestling and a decent reaction from the crowd as Konosuke Takeshita defeats Sammy Guevara and Brian Cage in 14-15 when Takeshita pinned Brian Cage with a javelin kick. Cage was a weak link here, he's 52, but Guevara with 68, Takeshita 74. Good chemistry with him and Don Callis, and Takeshita benefiting from being in amazing form. But 69 overall is good to see. I could just put on like lots of dream matches and see what works at the moment, because we're going to get nowhere near any 100 rated matches just because of the level of overness we're at the moment in time with a lot of our performers, so that'll take time. But if we can see what kind of meshes, it might benefit us in say 25 or 2026. So there you go, another match for Full Gear. International Championship, Will Ospreay, Konosuke Takeshita. We then had a video just watching a workout regime of Claudio Castagnoli, just seeing how dominating he is, how much of a freak athlete he is, and how much danger Bryan Danielson's going to be in at Full Gear. Sadly though, only a 45. I'm really trying to get Claudio over, but it's not really working at the moment. And our main event, thankfully saved the day with a good rating there. And about had some good wrestling and a decent reaction from the crowd. The Young Bucks defeated Top Flight in 11:53 when Nicholas Jackson pinned Darius Martin with the Meltzer driver. This was obviously designed to steal the show. Dante was a weak link. Nicholas Jackson was head and shoulders above the rest. Dante only got a 47. I know he was off his game there, but has that knee injury completely decimated his stats? It's maybe something I'll need to look at. But overall, happy with the 76. Both guys getting excellent chemistry when teaming together, so a boost there. Nick Jackson had came to me in one of the prior episodes with a creative finish that was going to run out soon, so it was a good chance to utilise that. And if Nick's off his game and getting an 82, I'd be intrigued to see what level he could get to. And we finish the show. The Bucks are in the ring, and we have the intimidating entrance of the House of Black as they basically make their intentions clear. They are the champions, but they are going to get some retribution on the Young Bucks for that attack on Buddy Matthews last week. So I got a 57. So likely that's the way we're going to go for the Tag Team Championship. Show itself was very successful. It was a 71. Increases of popularity in 18 regions. Fans were disappointed. I suppose like it was more promos that moved everything along. There wasn't anything in terms of a match, but hopefully we can work on that going forward. But yeah, if we didn't have the restricted growth, we'd have been making a hell of a lot of gains here. But still happy with it. A 71 is positive and a step in the right direction. Any locker room incidents before Rampage? None. So, I'll go back Rampage, and I'll see you guys for the roundup of Rampage, the roundup of what's going to happen going forward when we hit November, and of course, Collision. Let's do it. So it's now time for Collision, and the little roundup that we were going to do. So, I'm glad to start with 445,926 was our profit last month. So, it's not amazing profit, but at the end of the day, we have 100 million. As long as it wasn't like $4 or $5 million in debt per month, which would see the save go downhill very, very quickly. It means that I think now we can probably afford to go into debt, maybe even to lose 500,000 because I feel per month. Because I feel if we get bigger names in or make bigger investments, then that's going to turn to profit in terms of ticket sales, merchandise, and then obviously we eventually move from medium to large. Obviously that'll take a bit of time, but I feel like we're going to have to take short-term debt to get to the best place possible long-term, and so we can start trying to target those massive, massive matches. Other thing I'll add is, I always find it curious to see what storylines that I have in my head that AEW end up doing, and I think there is a few that are going to look that way, so I'm going to confirm. The Dynamite part of this episode was recorded before the 5th anniversary show. And because obviously I'm in the UK, so that's during the night, the Collision I'm recording now is the day after it. So there's some storylines that seem to be going that way. Takeshita versus, obviously, in my case, Will Ospreay, but the triple threat match that obviously is going to take place at Wrestle Dream. I don't know if this will be live before Wrestle Dream, because obviously I'm hammering this game. I'm having a blast. So there'll be a lot of stuff that will maybe be recorded a bit in advance, but now, overall, as I say, pretty good place. I say we're nowhere near any 100 rated matches, but that will come over time. So we'll do a quick look over Rampage, what can I booked for that. We'll go through the show for Collision, and then we'll pick 4 or 5 guys, girls to see how they're developing so far in the save, because that is obviously the first month done. So show history. I opted to start the show with the Beast Mortos defeating AR Fox. Good chance to see AR Fox with a pretty respectable rating. We had some words from Anna J. Taya Valkyrie defeated Queen Amanita. I'll get it right at one point, god damn it. And then made a promo with Diona and Taya talking about obviously the influence that the debuting Megan Bain has had with him. I don't think she was on last week's Dynamite, but obviously I'm sure she made her presence known on Collision. With the Jeff Jarrett promo, I had Jeff Jarrett defeat Evelino. We had Juice Robinson defeat Christopher Daniels. And then we had some words from the Bang Bang Gang. Jay White's good to go. I just need to figure out where I'm going to fit him in. But anyway, let's do a Collision. Let's see how it goes. So we're in the Arlen Horton Sports Centre, 2,466 fans. They lied to me, said it was going to be about 3,000, so yeah, there'll be some empty seats at the weirdos and some sections of the internet will go mental at. But anyway, decent matchup here. El Hijo del Vikingo defeats Mike Bennett in 8:24 with the 6:30 senton. A good victory for him, obviously he's beat Taven before, but a good opportunity to continue this small little feud that's not really a storyline between obviously the Undisputed Kingdom, the Lucha Bros, and Vikingo. 66, so good start to the show. We then had a little promo segment here from the Elite. Unfortunately, Nicholas and Jack Perry were not good at having to improvise because Matt wanted to not be scripted. But it's just them basically calling out Brody King, Buddy Matthews and Malachi Black for what went down on Dynamite. And basically setting us up for a 6-man tag this week coming up between the Elite and the House of Black, of course. Brody King and Malachi Black, your tag team champions. 49 though, not great. We had a Steal the Show match for the TNT Championship. This is the one that got moved from Dynamite. So Johnny TV is just going to be floating about, doing jobs. Basically, we brought Ty up, so I thought we'll bring Johnny up as well and he can put people over. Decent match. Danny Garcia wins in 12-11 with a sharpshooter. And yeah, third defence of the TNT title. Crowd not greatly into it, but good stuff in the wrestling side, and it sees a 63 overall. Garcia with a 64 in-ring performance. We then had a double segment here. We had the Mariah May title celebration. She's still champion, but obviously in the second part, we knew that Mina Shirakawa is going to be one of our challengers. But as Toni Storm comes down to attack Mariah May, does she get her revenge? It's the first time these two have locked even eyes on each other since Mariah won the belt. And worryingly, Toni Storm and Luther are an awkward pairing, so it'll cost a little bit. Only a 54, although it does continue the storyline and gain heat. So we obviously only had interactions so far by Mina Shirakawa and Mariah May, but with Toni in there as well, getting her revenge. We're pretty much going towards that triple threat match at Full Gear. So a couple of weeks to properly build that back up. More tag team action here. Decent matchup. The Grizzled Young Veterans grit their teeth and defeat the Outrunners in 8:23 when James Drake pinned Turbo Floyd with a ticket to Mayhem. Gibson did the best in-ring performance with a 67. Lots of greens there you can see in terms of Truth Magnum having flavour of the month, also benefiting from good chemistry with Erica Lee. But the tag team from the UK pick up the win in a 61 rated contest. They then give us a little promo after the match which continues the story between them and FDR. Just because it's not been really targeted the last couple of weeks, they just say, we haven't forgotten about you FDR. We want to get a match against you ASAP so we can basically rise up the ranks of the tag division and put you back down and get ourselves on the road to the Tag Team Championships. And that was only a 41, so that's a bit disappointing. More tag action, but this time in the women's division, and this one had decent wrestling but not a lot of heat. And I feel sorry for Yuka, she's putting a lot of people over here, but it's Diona and Taya picking up the win over Queen Amanata and Yuki Sakazaki. Yuka, that's too many Yukis Sonodas there, but 8:51. when Diona pinned Yuka with the Fujiwara Armor, or submitted her. You can clearly tell I'm half asleep at this point, but when you've got the TW addiction, you've got the TW addiction. But yeah, overall great performances, I must be said, for Yuka, for Diona, and a 61 segment for this matchup. It really was, though, after the match, to highlight the dominance and the intimidation of Megan Bayne as she beats up both Queen Aminata and Yuka Sakazaki, which is a 41. So again, slowly but surely building Megan Bayne's overness. We then had a match up here. It was a wild brawl. I thought, yep, let's do it. Darby Allin versus Brian Cage. Underdog status for Darby Allin, but he picks up the win in 10-24 with a coffin drop. Hangman came in, he tried to cost Darby the matchup, but did not succeed in this instance, so that carries the storyline between him and Hangman. Obviously, Hangman blames Darby for not allowing Hangman to be number one contender, get himself back into the championship standings. But 60 for the segment overall, and Darby worked through the match without affecting it due to his injury. He then has some words for Hangman, and just basically says, "You're obsessed with everybody in AEW that seems to step in your way. Sure, I failed, but you shouldn't have that against me. But it's fine. I get it. You just don't like me. I've been fighting against these kind of people all my life, and you're just going to be another one. You're crazy, but I guarantee you, I'm Darby Allin, and I'm crazier." So basically just confirming there'll be some mad spot or something at the event. But 51 continues their storyline. Next up, poor matchup. Powerhouse Hobbs defeated Tommy Billington in 720 with a frog splash. This was storytelling, basically just to show how dominating Powerhouse Hobbs was, and obviously I need to take away Don Callis for being his manager, because he's not in the house, the Don Callis family. He is, of course, with MVP. We have a little segment with him and Hobbs, just basically saying how good he is, what they've done to Ricochet to take him out. But then he also turns around and he sees Lee Moriarty and Shane Taylor, who are preparing for Lee's main event match tonight, and just said, "Guys, I'm intrigued by both of you. Take my business card. See what you think." Both of them take the business card, they shake the hand. We'll be in contact. 45. Lee Moriarty, though, much bigger things on his mind. The main event matchup against the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson. And as expected, this delivered. I'm spamming Bryan Danielson great matches. In a technical masterclass to gain pop that had great wrestling and a decent reaction from the crowd, Bryan Danielson defeats Lee Moriarty in 1740 by submission with cattle mutilation. So Bryan brings an 89. Him and Lee have good chemistry, so if Lee get more over, this could be really high. It's actually our best segment, our best match anyway, with the 81. And yeah, it was just to point him in a good place. We then get our final good promo of the night. Basically, we have Bryan Danielson shaking the hand of Lee Moriarty, said it was a great effort. And as I say, he's going to be a big player in the future for AEW. And then he cuts a promo on Claudio Castagnoli, just basically saying, "Claudio, I'm going to take these matches, I'm going to tune up to as best as I can be. We are going to have a fight at Full Gear, and I'm going to make sure you're not the one that retires me, or at least ends my active career." That was a 68. So overall, a 76. It might be our best show, and really helped by that one match. So yeah, we'll be basically Danielson all the way. Increase our popularity in 13 regions. A few places we don't grow because of the strict limits. But yeah, overall pretty good. A few storylines over as we continue to build the card towards Full Gear. 507,000 profits. We're up to 100 million, sorry. That's fine. In a few places we gained a number, but most places it's like 62 to 63. Should be soon. But it's one of the ones as well where like large is like 75, 77, so it's still a long way off. So Bryan, don't look to retire anytime soon from full-time competition. We're going to get back to the main screen. We'll take a look at the news items, but also just want to check, as I say, 3 or 4 wrestlers, and we'll see what kind of stuff we've done with them in the first month. There'll probably be like some for the main event and some that are going to be like projects. I'm also hoping as well, like I don't usually tend to do it apart from Veronica in the last save, but any fictional wrestlers that come through any of our academies or wrestling skills, we'll go all in. And we'll see what we can do. Baron Corbin's arguing with Nia Jax. JD Madonna is arguing with Austin Theory. Cody Rhodes has lost the WWE Championship to Randy Orton. In New Japan, I let Toru Yano, but I'm not saying a Toru Yano. Bring him in for the psychology and the acting. I will say, by the way, this isn't going to be realistic, this save. Like, if people become available from New Japan or WWE, if I like them, they're signing. Well, if they choose us. Maxine Dupree. So, like, Maxine Dupree will be one we don't go for. Because obviously, well, you could bring her as a manager, you know what I mean? Sex appeal's high, star quality's high, okay charisma. And she's 27, she can improve. But we have made a bid for one that we're hoping can be done, and that is Io Shirai. Obviously, Shelton will appear in AEW television. I thought we'll go for him and Shazza just to fill out ROH a wee bit, but Io is hopefully going to be the first one to jump. That's just confirming that. Shane Haste and Mikey Nichols are a one-off deal with ROH. Daniels won the television title, that's fine. Hangman Light Sweet Season, Mariah May, and we're up to a 1.26 rating for Collision. Right, Darby will give you a rest as well. So the last thing we're going to do is just really check a few wrestlers and see their development over time. So I'm going to start with Bryan Danielson, the American Dragon. So thankfully there, it seems none of his skills have declined, so that's always a positive. I was a little worried about that. Popularity, because he's had a few L's, he's up 1, so he starts at 65 and he's at 66, so nothing overly major there. If we go to someone like Will Ospreay, started at 58, we've got him 58, 59, he's not really developed too much in that sense, and his skill level though also seems to have no real improvement. Okay, so that was the two main stars I wanted to look at. If I look at someone in the form of Daniel Garcia, won a championship. In terms of his skills, his aerial's up 1. And I think that may be it. No, basics is up 1. Consistency and safety, he's only 26, so he can get these all up. Stamina's up 1, so that'll come with time as well. In terms of his popularity, started at 44. And we've got him up to a 50, so that's a good start with him. He's obviously making his way there. I think our most over guy is probably Danielson at the 66, so it is trying to get someone basically into that next level. Omega will be the same, yep, just under. Mercedes, where are you? She's 61. So the last one I'll look at for just now, just I'm getting tired, is going to be Mariah May, and she's made no movement on her popularity. In terms of skills, hardcore's up 1, aerial's up 1. Nothing in the mental side of things, nothing in terms of performance. A small improvement to our basics and consistency and our safety. So there's a few there that helped up, a wee bit of stamina up as well. That'll take time, but if they're young enough, they certainly can improve. But I feel we're in a good place. We are, as I say, still 3 weeks to full gear. Got a bit of the card in my mind, and as I say, yeah, we'll see what pops up in the next couple of weeks until then. But as I say, we'll start maybe being a bit more aggressive. If we're going to be signing like people that like to stack the rosters, it'll probably more so be ROH, just so I can get them under contract with us. But still, not in a written exclusive, just a written deal, so we can send them there. Or if they come to the main roster, it'll probably be a woman, just to pad out that division, so I get more people to kind of put others over, and obviously bring in more of the Joshies from Japan. But that is it. Cheers for watching. Remember to check out the Fantasy Booker subreddit, Great All Software Forums, twdb.com and bethebooker.net. And until next time, this was Maxwell. Hopefully see you next week for some more Dynamite, Collision, and a little Roundup or Rampage. Bye bye.